population in ASEAN is our youth. So this is a fantastic opportunity to recognize the extraordinary power of these young people. And again, help prepare for today's global workforce and cooperation and collaboration. So IYSE encompasses a few different programs within the initiative. We'll talk about 3 of them this evening. First, let's see, let me back up a bit. So again, we've talked about the overall initiative for ages 18 to 35 are eligible to become a member. And these are our 4 activities themes. 4 activities themes across ASEAN: education, civic engagement, sustainable development, and economic growth. Again, within the IYSE, or Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, we have the IYSE Academic Fellowship, the IYSE Academic Fellowship. So this is a program for youth ages 18 to 25 years old, 18 to 25. So these are undergraduate students or recent graduates. We see here, listed here on this slide, the 3 themes: civic engagement, environment, and economic empowerment, as well as more information about the format of the program, a virtual residency, as well as an in-person experience at a US host institution. So opportunity to meet, collaborate with, get to know, learn from peers and fellow leaders across ASEAN, both virtually in the online space, as well as in the United States. Applications for this program open twice every year, both in spring and in fall. And again, the target or audience for this academic fellowship program is undergraduate students or recent graduates, ages 18 to 35 years old. A common question that many of us here at the U.S. Embassy receive is, what might one be looking for when making an application to the IYSE Academic Fellowship Program? In short, I would say leadership, knowledge or professional experience of one of these 3 key themes, and commitment to community service, volunteerism, or mentorship. Again, those applications open twice every year, in spring and in fall. And I'll provide the QR code specific for the IYSE Academic Fellowship Program later in our slides. Perhaps you've already graduated from university. You're already established in your field, you're becoming established, you're starting your professional journey. For young people, ages 25 to 35, I would encourage you to learn more about the IYSE Professional Fellowship Program. Again, this is one of the many programs under the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. We see here information about the 4 themes of the fellowship program: civic engagement, governance and society, environment, and economic empowerment. This is a very unique and I think really effective and impactful program that combines a hybrid learning experience, just as with the academic fellowship, and opportunity to virtually participate, meet others, and have opportunity to showcase your unique leadership skills, followed by a 4-week in-person placement in US organizations. This Professional Fellows program is open once a year in the fall, once a year in the fall. And I'm saying that twice, and I'm emphasizing that because it is open now. Applications for Indonesia for the IYSE Professional Fellowship Program opened on June the 28th and will remain open through the 5th of August. So you have a few more days if you'd like to learn more and determine if this might be a great next step for you. Again, we'll close for Indonesian applicants, for applicants from Indonesia on the 5th of August. If you'd like to learn more, here's a QR code. And I'd also like to highlight a recent information session here. This information session is in Bahasa Indonesia. The QR code does link directly to the Facebook page of My America Jakarta, one of Indonesia's 12 American spaces, and features a range of wonderful presenters sharing their information and knowledge about this program. So we have alumni of the program as well as staff of the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, again, sharing information. I'd especially like to highlight my colleague Putra, who is featured not only in the recorded info session, but is here with us today. So please, if this information about the IYSE Professional Fellow Program is of interest to you, I'd encourage you to check out this recorded information session as well as the website. So we've talked about how this recorded information or this recorded info links to the Facebook page of one of, I just called it our 12 American spaces across Indonesia. I hope that many of you, if not all of you, are already familiar with the American Spaces program. Oops, sorry, one second. There we go. Let me again provide one more QR code, again, for the Young Asian Leaders Initiative there. And I'll see if we can link that in the chat later, if that would be helpful. Again, along the bottom of our screen here, we do have information about our social media handles, as well as an email address. All right, so thank you. I got ahead of myself. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm just so excited to talk about American Spaces because this is a program that I work on and is very near and dear to me as a program that connects the world to the United States. As mentioned earlier, American Spaces are located around the world. There are more than 600 around the world, including 12 here in Indonesia. American Spaces, again, provide information about the United States through things like educational advising, right? To go full circle, some of our Education USA spaces, such as, for example, are available at America, which is an American space, as well as workshops, classes, film discussions, and much, much more. So again, there are American spaces located across Indonesia. Here in Jakarta, we see examples from At America, located in Pacific Place Mall, as well as My America Jakarta, located here at the U.S. Embassy. Additionally, they're available as My America Surabaya, located at the U.S. Consulate in Surabaya, and the American Corners. American Corners are partnerships with local institutions. Here in Indonesia, American Corners are hosted by universities. There are 12 across the country. And here are some photos from just some of those American spaces where we can see great examples of connecting, learning, and growing together. American spaces truly are for everyone. So I really would encourage you to learn more about Education USA, about our cultural exchange programs and about the United States in general through connecting to an American space near you. We offer, again, a range of different programs, workshops, and more, as well as traditional media, such as books, magazines, and for you students and researchers out there, access to full text online academic journals, again, to help further your research and help all of us learn more about the world around us. Here, I'm going to link a QR code with more information about the American spaces in Indonesia. Again, this links to information about the 12, including their locations and how to contact them and learn more about what is happening at a space near you. Again, American spaces are open to everyone, so please feel free to learn more about when to drop in, or if you'd like to connect with them online and take advantage of some of the many virtual or digital opportunities, you can also check that out through this QR code. So we've talked today about Education USA and how to connect with at least one of the 6 Education USA advising centers across Indonesia, about why one should think about studying in the United States, namely topics of flexibility, diversity, and innovation. We've talked a bit about cultural exchange programs, especially the IYSE, or Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative programs that are available to youth ages 18 to 35 across Indonesia and other ASEAN countries. So again, the academic fellowship is for those who are in undergraduate or recent graduates, and the Professional Fellows Exchange Program, which is open now for Indonesian applicants from Indonesia, is for ages 25 to 35 who are becoming established in their professional journeys. I hope that this information has been helpful to you. It's truly been an honor to spend time with you this evening. Let me take a pause there, and I'll stop sharing for a moment to see if there are any questions. I believe, moderator, I might have just a couple of minutes left. I'd love to take a question if at all possible. All right, so while we're waiting on someone to start, let me appreciate in the chat. I see some IYSE alumni. All right, way to go. Great, everyone. Great. Great. Absolutely. Good evening, and thanks for that question, Jeffrey. I very much appreciate it. The topic of diversity, inclusion, equality, and accessibility is enormously important to the United States and truly to all of us around the world. Here at the U.S. Embassy, in our cultural exchange programs, we make efforts to absolutely accommodate youth from disabled communities to be able to fully participate in our exchange programs through a range of different opportunities and, again, accommodations to help make sure that everyone is able to have the same, again, fully participatory experience. So those specific accommodations are, of course, made according to each individual's unique set of needs. And that's something that we absolutely do take into consideration in wanting to be sure that we're being good partners in accommodating everyone in our programs. Wonderful, great.
Well, okay. Thank you. Firstly, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. You know that not all of Indonesian have English as their secondary language, and my question is how to open this boundary while English is the mandatory requirement. How these people will be treated? Okay, that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that question. I appreciate that very much. So for those who might not have been able to hear, the question is about English participation. And you're exactly right. English communication is required to participate in the exchange programs, right? And so learning English, of course, can happen through many different ways, through the classroom and, of course, outside of the classroom. For additional opportunities on how to connect with maybe English clubs, English discussion groups, and more, of course, I can point learners from across Indonesia and truly around the world to the American Spaces program. There are also a wealth of resources available at a program called American English, and I can put that in a chat. That's americanenglish.state.gov to help learners and educators bring English language to life. Because I think, no matter, we all share the same goal of wanting to increase that level of English, right? English opens doors. Thank you for your interest. I appreciate it.
Thank you also for your interesting answer.
Great. Thank you for those really fascinating questions. I very much appreciate those. Let me start by answering your last question first, if that's okay. So your first question was about shortcomings, shortcomings. And I think that's an interesting word to use. I might kind of flip that. I might think about opportunities, right? Opportunities for growth. Feedback that I hear, pardon me, responses that I hear, not only from Indonesia, but from around the world. Sorry, one moment. All right, thank you for bearing with me. I'm sorry, I had a disturbance here in the office. Thanks for your patience. All right, so going back to opportunities for growth, something that I hear feedback from international students about, challenges that they faced or opportunities for growth that they experienced within the U.S. higher education system was becoming accustomed to the U.S. style of education. In American classrooms, we often see a very small class size, sometimes as low as 10 students per section or per course. And the kind of learning experience is very participatory. So it's expected of learners to ask questions and to question authority sometimes, and to, again, be fully participatory in the classroom with their cohort, with their professor. So I do think that that presents an opportunity for growth for many learners around the world to have exposure to the US system of education. Now, your second question builds upon, or your first question really builds upon that, I think, and that is, what kind of programs may exist to help a learner know if they're ready for kind of those choices? Whether do I join the workforce, or do I continue my education, right? Particular programs, I guess what comes to mind first is a recent program offered virtually by our team members at America, which is again one of our 12 American spaces located physically within the Pacific Place Mall. But during the pandemic and continue to this day, they do offer a range of virtual and online programs. And there was a recent program, it is archived and available on their social media and on their website, about this particular topic. Do I become a generalist or a specialist? Do I specialize in a particular topic, or do I continue as a generalist? What's going to help me more as I look ahead, 5 years, 10 years and more into the workforce? And I particularly enjoyed that program because it offered a range of perspectives from many knowledgeable panelists. So I'd encourage our viewers today, if this is a topic you're interested in, to seek out that particular panel, which is presented in Bahasa Indonesia. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a true joy being here with you. Please let me wish all of the 118 participants that I see here on camera this evening all the best for this evening and in the week ahead. Thanks for spending your time with me. It's been great getting to know you, and really best of luck to everyone.
Yeah, hello. Okay. Thank you so much for the time that you give to me. So Good afternoon, everybody in European countries, maybe, and then good evening from people in Indonesia and across the ASEAN. My name is Isnawati Hidayah. Today we would like to discuss about design thinking, especially the cases is related to the educational sector in rural area amidst the pandemic. Before I going on to the next discussion, can you hear my voice clearly? Okay, thank you so much. And I will share my screen now and we will discuss further about that. Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, yeah, so today we would like to discuss about the design thinking, especially for youth leaders collaboration. It means it is for all of you that joined the session today held by Unesa, and the topic specifically about the better education in rural area amidst the pandemic. My name is Isnawati Hidayah. Currently, I'm as the Director Executive of Rotasi Institute. We are focused on rural development and sustainability issues. So it's it's really interesting topic for sure. And also now I'm pursuing my PhD in economic in Sapienza University of Rome, Italy. The outline today, we would like to discuss about design thinking, and then we will mention also why it should be used. And then the topic is about the educational access in rural areas amidst the pandemic. And also I will show you some study cases to, maybe to give you brainstorm and something like that. What is actually design thinking? Today, this session is like a bridging session. You will understand about what is and how to do the design thinking. And afterward, maybe the selected participant will have like breakout room session to make their own design thinking. So this is kind of interesting knowledge for all of you. And maybe some of you have already known about it, but today we will discuss it specifically regarding to your own cases in your home country. The design thinking is human-centered and collaborative approach to solving the problem, which is using creative, iterative, and practical way of thinking. So it means that using the design thinking, it requires collaboration among people, among the youth leaders here, to solve certain problem that occurs in the society using the creative and innovative way of thinking. And it integrates between people, business, and technology. It means that it has to answer the problem in society. It has to relate with the people, and then it has to viable, and more important, it has to be feasible. So the outcome can be a technology, a program, or campaign, or something like that. If you have question, where do you need to start, and who is the one that need to start with to make the design thinking to solve the society's problem? It's not the user, not the client, customer, or anyone like that, but it starts from the people. It start from the people's problem, which seen by the youth leaders. You as the youth leaders will see there are a lot of problem and complex problem occur among the people surrounding us, and then we can start to create the design thinking. Why it should be used? Because it's really youth is one of pillars, or it's really important target to make a movement or to create strategy on solving global problems. That's why United Nations Youth Strategy exists. It's empowered like identifying how youth can get the access of education, health services, economic empowerment, so they can also address the problem in rural areas, especially for youth in rural areas. This is the main sustainable SDGs goals that addressed in the United Nations Youth Strategy. We have the goal number 11, sustainable cities and communities. And then number 3 is good health and well-being. Number 8 is decent work and economic growth. And number 9 is industry and innovation and infrastructure. Youth also have a really important role on solving or changing on the society. For instance, in they have European Union Youth Strategy, which specifically address also young people in urban and rural area settings, especially addressing moving rural youth forward. That's why all of you here, maybe you come from across the globe, from various countries, and you are having really important part on solving the problem in your own country with all your power. I mean, with all the things that you have now, you can make a movement. If we have question, what actually the design is? The design is something that changing. It means it always changing every single time. Why is that so? Because when we see the problem in society, it's something that fluid. It's something that complex and fluid. It's always changing every single days. The need and the necessary from the society always improve, develop, or maybe become more complex. That's why the design is changing. The nature of the design is always changing. We have to bear that in mind. So we cannot be the one that really firm and afraid with changing. So we have to be flexible on designing the problem for society. And in design thinking, this is the balance of thinking. It's not only analytical thinking that use 100% reliability. It's also not only intuitive thinking, which use 100% of validity, but the design thinking is combining between the analytical thinking and intuitive thinking. So you have to use your analytical thoughts with knowledge, with paper research and enough discussion with people who know the knowledge better. And then we also use our intuitive thinking on using those analytical assessment. That's why we call it as design thinking, because this is used 50 and 50, 50% of analytical thinking and 50% of intuitive thinking. And the design is also evolving. So like I said before, it's always changing. It's always evolving, because the problem in society might be in the decades ago, people only rely to get information from radio or from television, but now it's keep evolving. They need the information from the social media, from internet, and something that easy to access by all of us. That's why when we create such kind of solution like technology or answer to the certain problem in society, it has to be evolving, and it has to be matched with what society needs and what's the problem in the society right now. Another one, we need also understand about what is the design thinking mindset. The one important thing that we have to remember is about the empathy. It means that we need to feel what other people feels. Like, we have to stand in their shoes to understand how if these certain people facing this kind of problem. For instance, we see a lot of poor people in the rural areas, then they also have difficulties to access job vacancies or decent work, for example. We need to be empathized with them. We need to feel how if you are living in the poverty and then you have difficulty to access the job vacancies and like decent work to earn your living day by day, how do you feel? We need to have empathy on making the design thinking. And the next one, we also have show, don't tell. It means that we need to make an action. It's not only talking, it's not only like just discussing, but we have to make some action according to the problem that we already analyzed. and then make experiment whether the solution that we offer is suitable or not with the society, is it feasible or not. So we have to kind of like make experiment to find the best formula on solving the society problem or creating this strategy. The design thinking mindset itself is also mindfulness. It means that we have to be thoughtful. We have to think carefully when we create our structurized kind of certain idea. We have to be thoughtful. So it's not abruptly or it's not carelessly making, but you have to be carefully discuss about this solution for society. So it can be sustainable in the end of the day. And it also has to be action oriented. It means that when you create a solution, it has to be feasible. For instance, you see there is like you need like certain software or application maybe to bridging between the job offer and also the job seeker. It means that your solution has to be something that's feasible so it can be action oriented. So make sure it's feasible. And the next one is collaboration, because when you create kind of solution or you make kind of movement by yourself, it will be so difficult. For instance, now I'm working or establishing with my friend named an independent research organization. It's named Rotasi Institute. We are collaborating with a lot of stakeholders. For instance, we make collaboration with Indonesian institution and then university, also with foreign organization to make our goal comes through or we can achieve our mission and vision. Now we start to make the design thinking. This is the 5 steps that we need to use to make the design thinking. So maybe after this, the committee will divide you, or for the selected participant, will divide you into the breakout room, and you have to remember this 5 steps, or you have to make a note of this one, because this is how you will make the design thinking. The first one, you will empathize. It means that when you see, for instance, I will give you example from Indonesia cases, we call it as Gojek. This is kind of Uber, and maybe in Southeast Asian countries or in other countries really familiar with Uber. So the problem is we have there is a certain problem facing by the society. They have difficulties to access like comfortable transportation that easily to be booked, and then there are also a lot of jobless in the society. And we feel that this is kind of a big and complex problem for us. And then we define that problem. We define how actually the problem is. Oh, it might be when we want to book a taxi or we want to use like public transportation, it's not that convenient, or it's not that easy for some people, or it's not that user friendly, for instance. We have to define this kind of problem. And then to answer the problem, there is a group of young people that ideate make kind of the software. So they make a software that can bridging people that looking for convenient transportation with the group of people that offer their services to deliver you from one place to another place. So you make the idea regarding the problem that you will solve. After that, the 4th step is prototyping. So if you have the certain mindset or certain idea that, okay, I will create certain software, but what kind of software? What menu should be inside? And then what services that we want to offer to the society? You have to make the prototype. For instance, we not only bridging, I think the need of society is not only transportation, but maybe it's also they want to save their time and then their energy if they want to eat something without going out, but their food can be delivered at home. So they make the development evolving. So it's not only solving one problem, but they see that, okay, so the idea is related to another problem. So they make kind of the complex strategy, prototyping it so they can make it come true and feasible to be implemented. After that, they make a test to the society, and it seems that it's quite worked well because Gojek they do the testing firstly in Jakarta, and they have quite good response from the society, and they believe that okay, we already tested, and then it means that it can be feasible to the society, and they accept it. They can accept this kind of new technology. So these 5 steps, if you already find your problem that you empathize, and then you find the idea, you already prototype it, and then you can make a test. And this is maybe after that, after the discussion, you need to present it. It requires only 1 or 3 minutes. We call it as pitching. It means that you need to attract the investor or another people, another stakeholder to work with you with this sort of time. So you have to make your presentation really short, but really content. It has to be straightforward and concise, but your idea can be delivered easily. It's not easy job to do, but you can work together on it, and I think it can help you on understanding how the design thinking is. Let's give me time to give you example. So this is the example. We will bring the setting in the rural area. Why? Because the rural area is one of vulnerable victim, I call it victim, or vulnerable target during the pandemic. They are living in the place that do not have enough access to education, lack of decent infrastructure, and then maybe internet access. They do not have adequate access to healthcare and something like that. That's why people who live in rural areas is one of group that really vulnerable amidst the pandemic. So it's a COVID-19 for sure since 2020. If it's in Indonesia, the first cases happens in 2020. Okay, we talk about the educational setting here. Let's see what's really going on during the pandemic. What happened in educational sector? When you see this graph, I will invite you to join me to reading how this graph actually is. This is research from UNESCO, UNICEF, and World Bank 2021. During the pandemic, a lot of countries will close their schools, or we call it as school closures. Between T1 and T2, it's mean from the time whenever is it the pandemic started in their own country, and when they think they already start to adjust with this kind of situation during the pandemic. So they close their school between this day, but then as the result, there is a phase called as forgetting and forgone. Forgetting means that the student come back to go to school, but they are already forgetting about what the courses they already taught or they already teach during before the pandemic. Forgone means that it's not only forgetting, but they already get lost. They are come to school, but they cannot come back to the right track like before the pandemic happened. This is the forgetting and forgone phase. It's really important because in this session, when we able to find the best strategy or the most suitable strategy with certain countries' characteristics, it can give like accelerate learning recovery trajectory post-COVID. But if not, it can be a learning trajectory post-COVID, which have a lot of declining in the quality of education. So it's really important faster. And if the forgetting and forgone just keep going without any solution, what will happen next? It will be future learning loss. It means that it's really hard for people who work in educational sector or for students to just get back in track, to have like proper education, to have like decent way of teaching and learning again after the pandemic. That's why it's kind of the big picture, what actually happened in the educational sector amidst the pandemic. And this is about the graph that show you there are a lot of 100 million students in a low middle income country have been affected by full or partial school closures. We can see here the yellow one, it means that the school make kind of fully closure and the student affected by it. And the orange one here is only partial. Maybe they divide the time when student need to come to the school, maybe only one day a week or twice a week and something like that. And this is the number of countries. Like in the green one, the number of countries that implement the full closure to the school. And then the blue one is numbers of countries that implement partial closure for their school. So it's really big and complex problem during the pandemic because the school need to be closed and also the school management need to find the best way how they still can give learning session to the student and how student can keep up with all the changing and how if the student didn't have enough access to the internet or the facility to join the school online, for instance, it's really complex problem happen. During the pandemic, the learning poverty is getting worse. What is actually learning poverty? It means that the student have difficulty to understand or to read, and it's likely but the student aged by 10 years old and they have difficulties on understanding or reading or following the courses and something like that. The simulation here is in November 2020 and it's also a year after, it's in November 2021. This is in the intermediate scenario. It means that it just, okay, this is pandemic. It just like that. But in pessimistic scenario, it means that this is pandemic and this is the worst thing that will happen if it's keep going. So they have two scenario for 2021 and they have one scenario for 2020. Whatever the year is, we see that the learning poverty is higher during COVID compared to pre-COVID baseline or the blue one. The orange one is after the COVID. For instance, in 2020, it's 10% higher than before the COVID. And this is also the picture, and this graph is quite a bit complex, but I will try to explain to you as simple as possible. And so this is telling us about setting in low middle income countries. We have they have example here, for instance, Kenya, Pakistan, Brazil, South Africa, Russia, Ethiopia, and MML, it here means math or mathematics, here language lesson, and S is for science, and G8, G3 is about their grade. So maybe in Indonesia we have grade 1, 2, 3 until 6 for the elementary school, and maybe for another countries have their own setting on grade. But the most important thing that we need to see is this graph between the blue and the orange one. The blue means that how the learning, how the learning loss happen if they didn't do any school closure. So they just open a whole year. The learning loss still happen, but it's quite lower compared to the amidst the pandemic. And this is, the orange one means that the school is closure. They have either this is fully closure or just partially closure. And we can see that orange one is always higher. It's happened because during the pandemic, when the school closed, whether it's just for 1-2 weeks or maybe 1 year or several months, the learning loss that happened is higher compared to when the school is never closed at all. But you know, when the school never closed at all, they have high risk to get infected by the pandemic. So it's kind of a difficult situation. You have to choose whether health or education in person or education online, but with a lot of challenges that happen in society. So maybe it can be brainstorming for you for later on when you have discussion. this is the example of what's really going on in the low middle income country based on the research from UNICEF and UNESCO and World Bank. There are a lot of countries that have solution to give like alternative learning way using internet access. For instance, they can use Zoom like this one, or maybe they have another way to do it. The most important thing is they have to have internet access at home. And see, the blue one here is rural area. People who live in rural area, especially in East Asia and Pacific, they have less than 50% access of internet in their home compared to urban area, because they have like almost 80% access of internet in their home. Let's see for another countries. This is West and Central Africa. Even it's lower than 10%. Lower than 10% people have internet access at home for people who live in rural area. There are digital divide here. It's have a big gap between urban and rural area. And it's also the similar graphic like I told you before, but this is in the high income country. So we can conclude that whether this is in low, middle, or high income countries, learning loss happen even worse when they have school closure within one whole year. And this one, this is the modality on, I mean, like when they cannot have class in person or they cannot meet directly in the classroom, they have several alternatives to do so. Let's see from the low income countries. Here, 58%, they use online platform to be alternative as the, I mean like alternative from the in-person classroom. But they also have television. So it means that not all society in low-income countries, they have good access of internet to join the online courses using the online platform. So the government might kind of specific session in the television to give educational program there. I think our Ministry of Education experience implemented this kind of solution. I mean, they have like specific television program. It's in an Indonesia setting. I mean, in Indonesia, they ever have kind of specific educational program in the television in order to substitute people that don't have enough internet access to join an online platform. And we can see here that there are really, I mean, various solution or alternative that certain country offer to their school educational system. We can see here is lower middle income countries, upper middle income countries. We also have high income countries, and this is global, how the global is react on doing the alternative learning session. In high income countries, we can see that most of them using the online platform, but just 71% providing the educational program in the television. So maybe it can be your basic knowledge when you want to create some kind of a solution to the certain problem related to the education. But during your discussion, you can bring various topics or themes about that. You can use economic, you can have social, or maybe technological problem. So it's later on will decide by your own group. So like what Abdul Kalam said, that almost half of the population in the world is living in the rural region, and for sure it's in the poverty. So during the pandemic, they are hit even harder than others. They face more difficult situation compared to people who live in urban area, because they already like a lot of facility sector, access, health, education, and anything since the beginning before the pandemic. And this is kind of maybe the last slide. This is the study cases that maybe can highlight, I mean like can be enlightenment, a bit enlightenment maybe, or it can be a bit information for you regarding how the problem come when the pandemic come to all countries across the globe, they have problem to do the educational activities, and then they try to make the alternative way using the internet access. But there are various problems come up from various countries about how internet access or technology accesses they have for people who live in rural area. The first problem is for ASEAN country. This is for Asia's lower middle income economic country. It's only 41% household have internet access. So it's only 41% have the internet access. So not everyone have this internet access. And this setting is in the rural area and might be a bit higher in the urban area, but still the rural area have lower internet access. And for sure, for another country, we can see in West Central Africa, it's only 26% household in rural area own a television. Because when we see the previous graphic, it's less than 10%, it might be 1, 2, or 3% only people have access to internet access, especially who live in the rural area. So it's become big challenges. And India itself, it's only 68% of household, especially for primary school age children in rural area that own smartphone, because smartphone is one of most popular technology device that used during the pandemic to access the education or learning activities for their school. And we know in India also have like 2 years, it's about almost 2 years without schooling at all to go to the school. I mean, like have school closures. Last but not least, we can see from the global setting, the school closure is affected 1.6 billion children across the globe. 1.6 billion children, it's a really big number. It's whether in the lower or middle income country or in the higher income country. But for sure in the countries that have lower middle income, they will have longer school closure compared to the high income countries. For instance, in the part of South Asia, Latin America and Africa, the school have been fully closed for over 80 weeks. It means that it can be forgetting or forgone for the student, or maybe future learning loss. So maybe here, because we are now starting to recovery from the COVID, and then after this kind of uncertainty on the education, maybe some, for instance, in my university, I'm doing my PhD in Sapienza University of Rome. They start to have blended learning, because before they required like 100% student to come to the university. But now after the pandemic, they start to make a solution, for instance, make it the blended learning, because sometimes even though the economic activity or educational activity is starting to recover, but the pandemic is still there. I mean, like there is still high possibility for certain people to get affected, and then when they go to school in person, they will reinfect so maybe their friends or their colleague and something like that. So it still happen. For instance, it's an example from my husband, because this year is the first time in European countries start to make offline conference. So my husband went to Vienna to join kind of microbiology conference attended by 300%. And like he went there with his group from the same university, and then he got COVID, and 80% from his group got also COVID, infected by COVID. So it means that it's still highly chance to get infected, even though now it's starting to recover, and a lot of people have been got the vaccination and something like that. But maybe there are still a niche, or there is still gap of problem that you can fill, or you can make a solution on to be, and you can discuss it with your own group. And I think I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for your time. I will give it back to the moderator regarding the issue that I've been discussed. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
clearly.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Bisna, for your insightful sharing just now. I just would like to ask regarding the design thinking process that you mentioned just now. You've explained quite a bit on the 101 in how to develop design thinking in putting actions into the challenges that we're having right now. But my only concern is that when we talk about design a process that involves thinking, often than not, we always fall into these cognitive biases traps. Uh, for instances, like you were mentioning that high income countries just now, they are opting for these online platforms, but in reality, they're also facing learning poverty quite similar to the low income countries that are not using the online platforms. And most often that we can see the solutions is people are moving into this online platform saying this is the best solution, but instead the reality shows the other words. So is there any indicators or structure or perhaps how we can say options that we can use to suppress or to reduce the gap that we fall into these cognitive biases when we do this design thinking process? Yeah, I think that is my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Haikal, for your question. It's really interesting because that sure there is like a gap between higher income countries and middle income countries or lower income countries. And then we also can say that even though the higher income countries have, they have more access to the online platform, the problem is not solved fully, right? Like what you say, they also have difficulties on passing it. For instance, during the online platform learning or something like that, when people still stay at home to do the school or to do the conference and something like that, but in the other way, in the other hand, maybe they have kind of physiology or psychological problem because their their workload become higher. They have difficulties on dividing where's the working load and where's the family time and which one is the working the working time, which one leisure time for the family, when I can take a rest and something like that. Sometimes people just work 7/24, like 7 days or 24 hours. And when we discuss about it, like you say that there are another problem come up, even though the higher income countries still have the higher online platform. When I brainstorm you about it, it can be one problem that you can solve. Like you can decide with your team, for instance, okay, maybe people can still do the learning via online or via digital, but what can we do for them to have work balance life? What can we offer for them to access like easy consultation when they have mental health problem, or what we can do to give them mental health support and something like that. And when you move to your next question, it's about what's the indicator when we need to address the gap on cognitive part, for instance, the difference of digital access between the lower income country and high income country. The things that we can see is when we are creating the design thinking, the setting is we need to know who is the targeted. Who is the target? Because do we make the software for people globally? Do we make the software or the solution for people who specifically living in low income countries, or maybe certain countries, or maybe only in one countries? So it does, like you need to be really specific to be visible. So when we see there are gap difference between global and like between lower income countries and high income countries, my question will be, can you give me one solution or one problem that you want to be addressed on it? because when we make the design thinking, it should be specific. We should know the target. And it's also happened in the startup, like startup pitching or startup incubators, because I think the design thinking is almost the same. I ever joined IYSE program regarding the startup incubator session. They use almost similar step, but you know that step is just a few steps. I mean, like a few knowledge to help you, to direct you on how thinking to solve certain problem. But that's not like the big one. It's not like you have to use this step, or you have to, if not, you it's such a failure and something like that. That's just one step from a lot of steps that exist. You can use your own approach with your team, for instance, and for sure to find the best solution on doing the design thinking, please specify the target on your program or the technology is. So yeah, that's to answering how we can reduce the divide itself. Because when you solve the problem, for instance, Uber, I believe that Uber come the first time in one certain setting of the countries, and then they develop it to another countries until becoming like global companies. And we have it in the Netherlands, we have it in the Italy, we have it in almost countries. Like when they develop it to another countries, they will adjust it. They will adjust it with their characteristic or the system or the policy in those certain countries, but still using main blueprint, the same main design on implementing those kind of technology. I mean, like, can I, is it answering your question, Heiko? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Miss Isnawati. I have a questions on the design thinking processes. You've mentioned that there are 5 stages, right? And um, even though you've already explained that we need to also um, like contemplate the feasibility studies, but how will we able to effectively monitor it for a long-term basis?
Okay, so when, for instance, when we creating this kind of solution, I will give you example. It's kind of we creating startup, yeah, using this design thinking step. You make kind of the first one before you make sure it can be maintained for long-term period. You need to test it to the society first. That is the kind of early step that you need to do. Testing to the society. You need to ask whether it is feasible or not, it is accepted or not by the society. Because when you get accepted by the society, it will make you easier to maintain the long-term goal for your program, project, or technology. So I have experience with my team. That time we have kind of the IYSE startup incubator in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. We create this kind of project. We make a pitching for 1 or 3 minutes, but then we need to test the project. So do you know what we are doing? We spread the questionnaire just only 1 day, because when we have kind of training, it's really short of time, but we need to make it visible. When we are able to convince a lot of people to accept our program, we can make sure that it can work. Because when we are joining that kind of competition, the price will be the basic seats, like it's kind of capitals, it's kind of fundings, the first funding that we can secure for our startup that we already discussed with our team. So it's really important to make sure to the investor or other people that, okay, it's accepted by society. How to make sure, how to test it? We can make questionnaire, we can ask the people in person directly, we can ask their input and something like that. After that, the next step, how we can make sure that this can be long-term established. During the session, for sure, we have like timeline that we need to offer to the investor. We need to make timeline to offer to the judge. Maybe after this, you make a short breakout rooms, you will have the presentation, and you will have to make convincing the judges about how this company will stay longer. So you have to make kind of a timeline, Brilliana. So we make like the first 1 year, the first second year, what will you do? And then the first 10 year and the others. So you and your team need to think about that. For instance, on the first year, you will focus on designing or prototyping the product. And might be in the second year, you will focus on looking for the collaborators. It can be the government, or it can be another company in another technology informatical company, or another data analyst. So you need to make a step on it, because when you provide this kind of timeline, we are as the judge, or people who be the judges, can see whether your program is feasible, or it's just like making without thinking deeply. So answering your question, how to maintain your program become long-term, is you have to think like one step by step. From the first step, which is testing the product, the second step, what will you do in the first year? Maybe you make the team, you build up the team, you build up looking for the office, or maybe you developing the program and something like that. It has to be feasible, and so people can see, oh, it's possible to be done. Then the judges will be convinced with your idea, and the investor will easily give you the fundings and something like that. Hopefully it's answering your question.
Means
Yeah.
Recording in progress. Asifullah, could you please present the PowerPoint presentation?
Okay, never mind, just share the screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Hello, Mr. Moderator. Is it permitted that the two of us is going to present here, or just one? Okay. I believe Mr. Hasifullah is the first one to present, and then I'll follow for the next slide.
Hold on. Okay, sorry, give me a second. Okay, so we are from Group 1, focusing on Malaysia. So our team consists of from different countries. So first, we're going to talk about the current issues or the problem, which for us to empathize with. Before that, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Hello.
Okay, so basically what is currently happening is that there is not enough talent to educate and uplift the student, especially in the rural area. Okay, so this one gonna create some sort of like gap between the ones in the city and also in the rural area, especially they are expected to teach a lot of subject. For example, like one teachers are expected to teach Bahasa, English, most probably science and also history. So this one's going to create some stress and tension for the teacher itself. Okay, so the current manpowers are expected to teach and cover the whole subject in the school as well. So these particular teachers might be expected to teach some of the sport subject as well. On top of that, the infrastructure also play a vital role in bridging the student to have a good education experience. The problem arose from this thing is that most of the rural area in Malaysia, in the rural area, they have to like go through a certain extent of transportation. For example, there might be some cases the teachers or the student have to go to the school that might gonna take like around 1 to 2 hours. All right, so that should cover the current issues or the problem that we need to put ourselves in their shoes to really understand that it is really, really hard for them to actually have a good quality of education. Okay, so basically the scope for this problem, it is mostly focusing on the East Malaysia, of course, most of them coming from low-income family, and of course, the thing that we are going to focus on because they lack the access of to a good quality education. Okay, so Dio will expand on the matter going forward.
All right, good evening, everybody from the Philippines. I'm the Gracious Alliance, and part of which is here, the solution by which we are going to present to you is to set up a local education centers that can train and impart talents to be brought in. And of course, as part of bridging a more proactive quality education is to build an infrastructure that could be used as a gateway in providing a door-to-door service and a one-stop shop educational services in one infrastructures. And that is a great solution that we're going to propose. And that is something that's very attainable as a solution to the current situation that we have identified in Malaysia. Next is only experts are required to train new talents instead of the teacher or educators only have to commute back and forth in and out of the rural area. Considering the expertise of our teachers, of those who are going to impart knowledge, especially to our students, will give a very practical and concrete knowledge to be imparted to our students, especially that the quality of education should not be compromised. And that kind of solution is very practical and it's very important, especially since we are dealing with knowledge and the intellectual capacity, since we are forming the intellectual ability of the students as an answer or as a trademark and a barometer of achieving quality education. Next slide, please. Next is here is our pioneer project, and is the prototype. So we are going to conduct a pilot project in off-city area to test the mechanism and the success rate before applying it in the specific situation, considering the demographic capacity, demographics of our target population, target community. First, we have to practice it or to test it in a off-city area in order to test the mechanism. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? What are the major factors that might hinder our future application of our projects? And of course, getting the feedbacks of the students and the teachers on the outcome, by which this is going to be a great brand of evaluating the progress and the current success, or might be, God forbid, it is not going to be a failure. Instead, it would be a purposive to those of our audiences, and of course, or to the teachers, and of course, the Ministry of Education in Malaysia, as this will be a gateway in providing an intensive quality of education to our students, especially those who are in the underprivileged sectors in the community. I think that's all. And of course, yes, to add, in terms of sustainability as a long-term aspect of this project, we are going to propose this project to, we are going to pitch this project to institutions. We are going to fund, for example, the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative of the United States Embassy. They are the ones who are very passionate and in supporting initiatives of the youth. And we as the young, we are using our capacity to use our knowledge of what we can do to the underprivileged sectors in the community. And of course, we are going also to ask sponsorships and build partnerships in order to benchmark this kind of program to other countries, communities as well, giving and highlighting its importance and its role in an impactful quality education for all. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So just mic testing. Can you guys hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Barry, can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. You're answering. So before we start our presentation, just a little disclaimer because there is no representative from Saudi Arabia in our group. So I'm sorry if there's any misinformation presented in our slide later. So first of all, we have two participants here. Diana from Brunei and I'm Sherling from Malaysia. So just now, as we remember, there's one participant, Haikal from Malaysia, questioned that is online education the solution for improving education in certain areas. So we really take that questions into our case for Saudi Arabia. So next slide, please. All right, so for the first step for our design thinking, we have a study statistic from provided by Unesa and 2021. It is stated that invest in Central Africa, including Saudi Arabia, due to creative, they use broadcast media, or for example, the TV shows, to substitute for school classroom. However, the problem that we need to tackle here is that there is only 26% of households in rural areas on a television. So this is the problem that we need to solve. So in order to empathy with those the target participants that we need to solve, so we have an assessment study where we will interview the local local people in the rural areas in Saudi Arabia as well as as a focus group discussion. So next slide, please. So this shows a map of Saudi Arabia. So as you can see, those highlighted in deep blues are the rural areas in Saudi Arabia. So next slide, please. All right, so let's move on to define. All right, so our target participant here in this program is the elementary school student in rural areas of Saudi Arabia, and the username will be the TV shows, educational TV program or shows through broadcasting via televisions. And we have one program so-called One Community, One Center, because we believe that sharing is caring. So in this program, we target to establish effective TV education program through broadcasting in 3 years for elementary school students. And those partners will be involved will be Ministry of Education from Saudi Arabia, NGO, and media. So next slide. And this will be the visualizations of our program, One Community, One Center. And next, I will pass the mic to pass the platform to my partner, Barry.
Thank you, Shaw. So onto our ideation, our project will be One Community, One Center. And the idea of this project, we would like to implement a whole nation approach whereby we are going to engage multiple layers of stakeholders. And here we highlighted two phases, one on the community level and the second one is on the national level. So for community level, before we hands down any efforts to develop the community, we will conduct needs assessments to fully understand of their situations. And for the national level, it is on highlighting the national efforts to improve and develop infrastructures. But firstly, we will go into allocating funding, and that fund will be centralized to improve roads and internet connectivity, because this is the fundamentals for us to bridge the accessibility to broadcast media. Moving on to prototype, we divided it into two categories, center and the syllabus. So for the center, reiterating again our project, One Community, One Center, it is an effort to establish livelihood center for the community use to get access to education of the broadcast media. So in this one livelihood center, we are trying to accommodate up to 3 televisions in one livelihood center, and each television will be placed in one designated room. So 3 television, 3 different designated rooms, and students will be using these facilities accordingly to their schedules. As for the syllabus, the TV will be fully catered to the level of educations. So for primary education, it will only for primary education's network, and then for the other higher levels, it will be under the next phases. So this is ways for us to improve this prototype. There are 5 of them. So the first one is to use mix of live broadcasts, such as pre-recorded content and edutainment programs, and then identify channels for broadcasting programs, developing schedules for educational television program. As I mentioned earlier, one level will be different to another, and then developing a communication strategy and communicate regularly. And lastly, to provide support for students, including their parents and as well as the educators. Last but not least, under our test, there will be 5 categories, which are television acquisition, awareness program, launching, observations and monitoring, and also adjustments. So this task will not only involve the organizer, but also the relevant stakeholders, including our beneficiaries, especially the students. That would be all from us. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, good evening to one and all. Hello, can you get me? Yeah, can you hear me? Education during the pandemic and the developing through. Hello. Yeah.
Hi, I will be the speaker to open the presentation for Team 3. I hope that Mother can change the slide. And are you there, Mother? All right. Okay, so first of all, we really apologize because we know that our topic remains to the educational challenges in India, but so far we don't have any Indian participant in our team. Therefore, we want to choose the topic that will cover most of the country problems all around the world. So it would be the education during the COVID pandemic era, especially for developing country. So here we would like to take two examples of developing country in South Asia that will also have this similar situation to India, that is Vietnam at first. So here we would like to posing a short and brief topic about this one. It's COVID strike and education to the bright. As you have seen, when the COVID strike during the 2019 until 2021, and is still leaving a very severe consequence on the challenges of education in Vietnam and also other developing countries. For our country, there were less than 40% of children and youth aging around 10 to 17 years old to get sufficient education, especially virtual education during this time. So therefore, the rate of dropout and illiteracy just increased up to 60% in just 2 years. Next slide, please. All right. So therefore, in order to resolve this problem, we had to cooperate between different party and stakeholders. So in my field of work, we did cooperate with the governmental party, with the local private sectors, and with the beneficiaries. So for the workflow, in order to provide the virtual education for a village or an area, at least we need an available network of electricity. So electrifying a village is our first goal. That's why we need to rely on the governmental party, because EVN was the only unit that belonged to the national governmental party in order to do the electrical network. So after that, the second phase, we would move on to providing the signal broadcaster to the villages. So we currently having the three biggest mobile data signal is Viettel, Mobile, and Vinaphone. And mostly Viettel belong to the military technical groups. So therefore they are mostly developed in the remote areas and the other distant regions. So mostly we will rely on Viettel. And after that, we move to the third phase that will be providing the distributions of electronic devices. So we was able to distribute the electronic devices into three different categories. Familial education for family with more than 3 or 4 kids. They're able to get a separate phone. They're able to be monitored from distance, and it allowed their children to learn at home virtually. For the local group, we allowed we have the separate days for students to come to school in separate area and classes, so they can use a computer or 2 phones per group of 10 people, so they still can continue the virtual learning as well as the other children in the group 1 at home. And for the third one, we have the internet station, where the local can gather together to use the to use the computer, public computer, with a very affordable fee. It's just around 0.1 US dollar per hour. So mostly we have around 2 or 3 different internet stations for a village that with a population around 200 to 500. And next slide, please. So our work model, it would be 3 different stakeholders: the governmental party, working with the private sectors of social enterprise, NGOs, NPOs, and other donors, and for the sponsorship of the electric devices. And the third one is the beneficiaries, especially those who are living in the rural area and remote regions. And next, for the example from Indonesia, I would like to invite EK Dian from our group to continue the presentation.
The time, I want to bring the actual problem that happened in our country. The first problem is availability of the devices. Not all of the Indonesian people have the money to buy the devices to go or work and study online, especially on the remote area. We know that over still about 10% of Indonesian live in the poverty, and especially it is in the rural area outside of the Java, usually in the border of another country, such as in the border of Malaysia and also in the border of Philippines. It comes also from the Spirited Island. You know that this is our map. So as you can see, we are separated as in several big islands, such as Sumatra, Java, Borneo, Papua, and also Sulawesi. But the most developed one is the only Java, several part of Sumatra, and several part of Sulawesi Island. The other island is not really as good as, and also is not as fortunate as us in Java Island. It comes with several problematic issues, such as technological issues. That is the main problem of holding the online program. Continue the slide, please. While in India itself, I don't want to actually bring that. I want to mix the comparison between Indonesia and India. So this is the COVID-19 outbreak in India. As you can see, the lowest one only in the April 2022, with the total still in over 900 cases. It's it's actually really high with that big number of the people. Also depends on the health facilities. It's really different from us in Indonesia. We are let's say that we are still really fortunate that we can reach 0 cases in April 2022. Then on the next slide, we will have our friends.
Okay, so this is what I summarized about the India. So we didn't have any Indian friends in our group, so we didn't have a full information. We just I just searched and I found that the unemployment is one of the issue, and then in the rural area they have also increased of the unemployment. So actually this is the same in Korea. I'm from Korea. So the low employment of youth, young generation, is kind of the big issue in Korea as well. So we are thinking about that maybe they also can start their work in the rural area, like here as the teachers. I think this system is well explained by our friends Ike actually. So that was a really good idea because of this 2 groups of the students in the rural area, they cannot access to the internet due to the infrastructure situation, and also electricity is not available. So those groups are in a matching together, and then the government subsidy may try to pay them. So this kind of idea may be something very feasible that is implementing in Indonesia, some area. So something is like a in Korea, if we talk about Korea, so we have infrastructure. For example, like there is internet, there is electricity, but still we at the beginning we didn't have enough device and gadgets. So that's also another problem. So three things should be there if they can access to the internet and they can participate in the online class. So if we are waiting until these three items are ready, actually maybe this is a big problem and we have to wait the 1 year, 2 year long like that. So that is not a good idea to wait until everything is ready. So the best one, what we come up is just now, like I mentioned, that we are matching with a group of unemployment youth and then the group of students who cannot access to the internet. So for example, like a hybrid teaching, still like teachers are teaching in their class through the online, the gadget only one, maybe the like a part-time worker, part-time teachers and assistant teachers who unemployed can do this work and bring over those gazette and to the student's house and then students home, and with the several students are together there and they assist, because the online class is a very passive way of learning. So even in Korea, so I found that my daughters, they are very passive. They do something else and they are very easily distracted. So if there is any assistant teacher in their home, definitely they will more concentrate on the study. So this kind of a system can be easily implementable. So these are something idea that we have discussed in our group. That's it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say I was really very grateful to be here today and to see everyone wanting to improve their English and help other people with their education as well. A lot of times, some even native speakers might believe that they own English, but seeing an event like this, I'm very happy to see that actually the globe owns English. And because of this, we talk about how we can make the world a better place, but I do want to say that we don't have to wait for something like the government to get involved or a community get involved. It all starts with ourselves. And if we want a better life, not just in English, but just a better life in general, I think doing things like this, going to this conference and being here, it really can inspire other people to want to pursue their education in the future. And again, I'm very happy to be part of this. I'm more than happy to see everyone be part of this as well. So thank you everyone for inviting me.
Yeah. Good evening to one and all. Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. Good evening to one and all, staff and madam. And it's a great honor to invite me such a view because it's my first thing I just be commit to summit on education. When coming to all around the world, we almost like populated. Like one of when coming to education, because in that the education system is different from one place to another, from South India, North Indian, because there are so many poor people as well as high class people and the medium level. So when we have to check one by one, the people who are at the rich level, their education is like some quality way. When coming to the medium and high level class people are just be similar. When coming to low people who are just like in hilly region areas and low background, like living in the villages, they don't even have such type of facilities to education. So nowadays, it gradually increases. Whatever the government came from everywhere, the government priority is now changing, and they just be focusing in the people who are from the poor people. They just be implementing like a new technology. They just be providing like apps somewhere, some of like tablet laptops like that similar they just be increasing nowadays. When coming to technology in education, the India is gradually increases from village level to city level, and coming to everything is nowadays implementing. And coming to education, there are so many countries people's coming because it is not only because so many people are going outside for like Canada, UK, or abroad like USA, Ukraine, some other places for doing so many higher studies. But some of the people who are coming to India also, because in India itself having some good like education system, and the system will increase high level because at most populated country it will have some little bit some of the minus points, but gradually whatever the things it's going to be corrected. And I hope the education system in very soon, like India also having some of the major needs, mostly populated country like that, from poor people to rich people, everyone getting the education. I hope it will be become the true. Okay, it's my thing. I have want to share this thing. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you for letting me the part of these sessions. I'm very happy being here together. And actually, I didn't well prepared, so, but it is very good opportunity to I can talk freely about what I think about and then also the system in here. So I thought that some of the issue is only relevant to myself with my family and my neighbor here, but that's the all the situation and even worse than us. So I also gratitude about the all the system in here, but we always complain a lot about this actually. So I felt sorry about that situation also. And then the even those infrastructures are good in here, still there are something missing. So connections are more important than what we are having those great systems and then the support by government. So connections, how we can connect it like this is one of the biggest challenges that we have to find out. So once we are connected like this, actually it becomes a more great opportunity for us to find the better solution each other. So even one person or one area or one neighbor have a better life than others, it doesn't mean that then he can be happy. So these are more the country. The world became a very small country right now, as we all experience in this pandemic season. So thank you for arranging this great conference, and then thank you for having me together here.
Thank you. Before I deliver my statement, I'd like to express my gratitude to the organizer for inviting me to the summit. Now I'd like to deliver the national statement. So for education, it is undeniably that it is the greatest enabler and the greatest equalizer of all. And for our vision, we centralize it into two: quality education and also dynamic nations. For quality education, we would like to provide, we are committed to provide equitable quality education to all future generations who are guided by the values of Malay Islamic monarchy, equipping them with knowledge and 21st century skills to be future-ready citizens, and developing them to be positive, responsible learners and contribute positively to the nations. For dynamic nations, citizens who are able to adapt quickly to a changing environment for continuous participation in a dynamic and sustainable economy in order to sustain the nation's economic development, social and political stability, and maintaining competitive advantages. For our mission, we would like to deliver holistic educations to achieve fullest potential for all. It will be categorized into two: deliver holistic educations and achieve fullest potential. For deliver holistic education, as a professional and dynamic organizations, we would like to provide a holistic education system offering educational programs with a relevant and meaningful curriculum and responsive to the individuality of students. Achieving the fullest potential, we are committed to deliver holistic education through translated key stages of the developmental outcomes from early childhood to the post-secondary education through quality education for our professional teachers who will develop students to be proud Bruneians with strong foundations to enable them to actively contribute back to the nation. That would be all for my national statement. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Before I'm going to start my speech for today, or I mean for tonight, will have to extend my utmost gratitude to the organizers, and of course to Unesa, and of course to my fellow participants from different nations. I'm very much grateful to all of you because I have learned so much from you, and I'm very much willing to really impart what I really have in mind and what we have in our capacity to be of help to the different countries that we have. And of course, going back to the main topic and main purpose of what I'm stating here is that the vision of the Philippine education is to provide professional, primarily quality education to the students and of course to the learners, considering their economic stability. And despite of that, we are not limited to our fears and of course the threats, considering that the surge of the COVID-19 pandemic has been very strange and it has disturbed and claimed many lives. And sadly, in the Philippine situation, it's getting worse. But at the same time, our dreams to pursue our educational careers and of course our dreams to be of service to the community shall never falter. And of course, our mission to be of service to the nation and to provide professional and multidisciplinary services using the knowledge and the capacity of education that we have shall always be in the banner of becoming the best that we can be as a one Filipino nation to the world. And we are not only limited to our country, but of course, to benchmark what we have, the different countries, of course, the different continents, and generally to the world. And by such, we are here not just for ourselves. We are not just educating ourselves just for our own, but of course, we are doing this so that we can share the knowledge for others, and using the capacity that we had, we may always be, and we shall always become the great enabler of of sharing the best practices to others, and of course, become a great impactful personalities in the field of education, multidisciplinarity across the globe and its disciplines. Thank you very much.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good evening from where I am, and good day to different parts of the world. First and foremost, I would like to convey my thanks to the organizer for conducting International Youth Summit on Education. This is something that I'm really passionate about because just a little bit background. I have volunteered, I also teach, and I love my kids, so-called kids, because I like to call them kids. And it doesn't matter what range of education involved, it is something that we need to talk about. And I'm sorry if I'm a little bit extra, I actually prepare a slide so that it will be easier for you guys to see what is the current thing actually happening in Malaysia. And most probably, hopefully, that when you guys have a different conference in the future with different Malaysian, you guys can actually just follow up. So what is the current status of education system in Malaysia? All right, so I'm just going to share a little bit. Can you guys see my screen? Good. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about improving the Malaysian education system, which is related to what I've experienced and what is the youth involving in education in Malaysia. So just to critique the Malaysian government a little bit, their incompetency to handle the education system is shown to massive turnover rate, meaning that there is a lot of people quitting early just because the education system slightly is not what they expected. And some examples include adding unnecessary tasks, for example, like administration work that can be done by other workforce or technologies. For example, writing up paperwork, because their main focus, their skill is needed to actually teach and educate. So for example, these two excerpts being shown is that the perennial paradox of teacher shortage, meaning that there are talents. Basically, there are talents in Malaysia. They can teach a wide range of subjects, just that Malaysians is not doing their very best to actually place this talent into the right position. And also there also this issue of cutting off budget, but then the budget is being allocated to things that are not necessary to Malaysia right now, because moving forward, youth and education are the things that we need to focus on. And then the second thing is that constant policy changes admin works forcing teachers to quit early. So this is something that might interest you guys a little bit. I'm not sure if you guys know, just within one session, Malaysia has seen 3 different prime ministers. So it is something that we need to ponder about, because the politician, the bad ones, usually only think about the political turmoils and their own benefit, but not their future generation. So this is something that youth, as myself and also my friends and my colleague, would want to talk about and push forward in addressing education inequality and moving forward to make sure that, again, in the future, if you guys see another Malaysian, hopefully they can tell you, oh, the things in Malaysia is actually improving. So my vision for Malaysia is that to empower teachers and educators through better nationwide policy and education system implementation. It doesn't necessarily it's just going to be me or my colleague to implement this stuff, because as for me, I'm not really into the policy making or the governmental side of things. I'm more into the groundwork. I'm more into the hands-on thing. I like to be part of doing things that I can see changes directly. So for, let's first say, I volunteer just because I want the best for my kids. And this can also be done by providing better remuneration, basically for my friends and my colleague, in order to support and training by identifying challenged students with learning disabilities and providing advanced platform for teachers to do monitoring instead of juggling paperwork. So first half of that statement is focusing on how, I'm not sure about other places in other countries, but basically what happens in Malaysia is that there are students with learning difficulty, because mental health is also another issue that we do not really address. So what is actually happening that parents also do not want to talk about if their child is having learning difficulty or learning disability. So what we want to do is that to improve the system where instead of just place 2 or 3 teachers to oversee 750 students in a public school, we can do more to help teachers in identifying these children. Other than that, instead of asking them, because we have things like mondays.com, just a simple thing, instead of asking teachers to do tedious tasks, they can recruit or they can have a different workforce that actually do this thing instead of stressing out the teachers, because we need the teachers to educate, not just to do administration work. So moving forward, hopefully, not just for Malaysia, I hope every single thing that being addressed by different countries should be improved in the future. And again, thank you for the organizers, and hopefully to all of you guys from different parts of the world. I hope that we can cross paths, and it is so nice to mutually meet like-minded people. So that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, so I'm very nervous. This is my very first time to join and submit like this, especially the International Youth Summit Education. So at first I was very nervous because I know that what I'm speaking here and what I do will represent for my country. And I also want to appreciate, thank you. I would like to appreciate the organizer, especially Shirley, to invite me to this event, to share to learn from all the participants, and also to share my knowledge. So in Vietnam, as you guys have know from my previous presentation, we're already trying to reconstruct our education system and also trying to resolve the challenges left from the severe consequences by the COVID-19. And currently, the main challenges are from the economic system. Our inflation is rising, and it's due to the common knowledge of people teaching their children to be a manager, to be a prime minister, to be someone who really be in a great position of our country. They teach children to be a banker, to work a lot of money, to be a real estate agent worker, but they wouldn't appreciate the work from the other people behind the line. So for me and for myself, I would like to embrace the quality education in my country. If we're not a privilege for the rich, for the wealthy, or for the urban citizen, it should be a need for on the individual, especially the vulnerable communities like the ethnic groups, the disabled, and the LGBT community. And furthermore, an education that's not just teaching the kids to be doctor, to be engineer, to be teacher, banker, policeman, or prime minister. It should teach the next generation to embrace the diversity and appreciate the own kind of work, from a janitor, a farmer, to a social worker, or even a guard. Because every single small act contributes to the society and is meaningful. So now I'm just a very small sprig of sand and a small grain of rice to present for my country to sit here. And I have learned a lot from you guys. So I'm very happy to be a part of this and to meet a lot of like-minded people, especially my IYSE members. So I hope that now after this event, it would not just be an event, it would be the start of some sort of collaboration for further development in the future. And I would love to support you guys, especially in the education field. Thank you.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the opportunity. This time I would like to talk about Saudi Arabia 2030. Saudi Arabia has achieved universal access to education for large and geographically dispersed school age population. With its impressive gains in enrollment, however, Saudi Arabia has stretched the capacity of educators and administrators to deliver and assure high-quality learning. The advantages in participation will now need to be matched with equivalent progress in student learning and skills if the kingdom is to achieve the ambitious development goals outlined in Vision 2030. Vision 2030 in education is not limited to a specific field, but there are many fields such as professional field, higher and technical education. This change will be great that history will know, and the development process in 2030 is compatible with the Islamic religion and does not contradict in anything, especially the Hanafi school, and it will suit all the issues of the current era so that everyone learns how to deal with the life in which they live and how to have a different and distinct educational development in various fields. And the 2030 vision in education will keep pace with the 21st century and what it needs in all industrial, craft, intellectual, and technological fields. So, what will education be like in 2030? Education in 2030 depends on three things that cannot be dispensed with because they are the basis of education, and we will talk about them in the following. The first point is the teacher. The state provides a lot of special courses for him and gives special attention to the teacher so that he can look at all that is named from the curricula and how to deal with them, in addition to developing his educational aspect while giving him the opportunity to obtain many higher certificates and in the various fields that it can serve the educational sector, and this may increase his knowledge and help him in a better method of teaching because the teacher has a major role in changing the educational perspective. And secondly, the student. This vision works on making the student the main focus of education and that all dependence is on him. Therefore, the educational system has focused all its attention on the correct scientific upbringing of the student and works on developing all students and helping them to bring out their skills. And there will be many educational activities within school, and there will be a method to teach students how to deal with the phase of modern life. In addition to exposing their energies in various professional activities to create a generation capable of facing the burdens of life. And the third is teaching as the basis of knowledge, and without teaching, the student will not learn anything. So it is a key factor. And in the 2030 vision in education, there will be the use of more than one method of learning, which will help students to better understand the correct information, and there will be great reliance on the use of the technology. At the end, this outward-looking perspective sets the tone for much of the vision. It is reflected in the strategic objective of the National Transformation Program, which include improving requirement, the learning environment, and the curricula, improving student value and core skills, development financing methods, and improvement in financial efficiency, educating students to address national development requirement and labor market demands, developing a national strategy to upgrade the teaching profession, shifting to digital education to support teacher and student progress, and of course, lifelong learning or sustainability. So let's thank you very much for your great attention, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. May all those we have shared be beneficial for all of us. Again, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you everyone for inviting me. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you for the time given to me. And first of all, I'd like to say thanks for the committee who invite me to join this first International Youth Summit on Educations. As you know that Indonesia is a maritime country, so we have thousands island here. There are a lot of things to discuss related to the educational issues. But for after joining this program, I think it is good for me to discuss, also to have a solving problem of our issues in educations in Indonesia. We know that after pandemic, we have many things to do as a homework in educational system, like focusing on students' interests and also talents from the early ages. It is not easy, so we have to focus on essential materials for the students we have to give as a teacher, and also character development and also students' competencies. And here, transferring knowledge is not enough for us to give for the students. We also have to focus on students' characteristic and also students' character and also students' behavior. And we are not only focusing on the literacy and also numeracy of the students. We have problem to solve related to the networking, related to the lack of the gadget also. So what we have to do as the agent of changing, we and also the young generations here can share what we have for also for the people in remote area. I think the project-based learning become something to do for later on, and also the authentic learning become good to applicate in today's. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations, everybody. Thank you very much and good evening from the Philippines. Congratulations, organizer.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you and congratulations. Keep all the winners. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss
Hasib, Kylie, thank you so much.
Terima kasih, Miss
A
Shirley.
campus from the best city in Indonesia, a city with a long history of struggle and heroism.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Universitas Negeri Surabaya, a university with superior accreditation. Founded in 1964 as a teaching institute for education under the name IKIP Surabaya, to be an educational institution that carries the mandate as university that produces educators. Currently, Unesa, established as a center for education development, preservation of traditional arts, sports science, and inclusive services for people with disabilities. Growing to be a leading university, Unesa now manages 7 faculties consisting of 64 undergraduate study programs, 10 vocational programs, and 31 postgraduate study programs. The main campus is located in Lidawetan, Surabaya with 7 main buildings. They are Rectorate Building, Board of Learning Development and Quality Assurance Building, and 3 faculty buildings including Faculty of Science Education, Faculty of Language and Art, Faculty of Sports Science, as well as postgraduate programs. And here is the oldest campus, Ketintang area. There are 4 faculty buildings and 1 vocational program building that includes Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Economics and Business, Faculty of Social Sciences and